Hey everybody, I just got back from the Wireless West event in Scottsdale, Arizona. Fantastic meeting, great speakers, meaty content. If you're not there, in the next very few minutes, I'm going to do my best to download the must-know information that you missed, give you insight in what's happening in the world of 5G, tap into the current thinking of the leaders in the tower world, as well as the OEMs, and give you some advice on how to deploy small cells faster from an unlikely source. Are you ready? Here it comes. Hey everybody, it's Paul Harris with Blackhawk Recruiters here in sunny California. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Just back last night from Wireless West, April 15th through 17th, held at the Omni, Montelucia in Scottsdale. Very swanky resort, by the way. So you guys, this was the 5 state wireless associations in the West region getting together under one roof at one time. So Arizona Wireless Association, Nevada, Colorado, California, Northwest, which is basically Oregon and Washington. So if you weren't there, my goal is to kind of ramp you up on what you missed, but also, as I always try to do, make you feel like you were there. So you guys, I'm going to only cover, out of the entire three-day event, I'm going to cover only 2 different panels, but I'm going to kind of go deep dive, okay? So let's start off with kind of making you feel like you were there. Monday was a golf tournament, 325 people, phenomenal weather. I was at a booth sponsored by Lynx Consulting and Horizon Towers. I don't want to say we have the best thing on the entire course, but not only do we have giveaways like everybody else, but we had music, food, a keg of beer, a full bar, and a bartender. So I don't know, at least we had the most fun for sure. But more importantly, $15,000 was raised for charity from all the golfers that day, so great job to all the people that put that together. Dinner that night was provided by MD7 with the beautiful Camelback Mountain in the background. Phenomenal time, you guys. Let me get to the panels. I'm only going to do 2, 5G and the tower guys. So here it goes. So the 5G, I'll save the tower one for last, but 5G was done by, so the moderator was Jeff Lewis from Verticom, you know him. On the panel was Greg Sprates from Extenet, Desmond Jackber from Verizon, Dan Schweitzer from Crown Castle, Paul Schallner from Ericsson, and then Jen Daniels, who is the mayor of Gilbert, Arizona. What the heck is she doing on that panel? Stand by, you guys. I'm gonna ramp you up. She was definitely some value add. So let me get into it. So Paul from Ericsson, smart cat, by the way, he talked about AI and cloud being a transformational change. He talked about the 1 million challenge. So what he said is, you know, there's been about 3,000 cell sites deployed since the beginning of time, and the 1 million challenge is in the next 5 years, they're going to try to do 1 million new cell sites. So quite an undertaking. I know you know what that's all about. He talked about the need for low, mid, and high band spectrum for 5G, and how 4G to 5G is going to be kind of more of a software upgrade, but definitely some hardware as well. And he talked about MIMO and splicing being advantageous and needed for 5G. He talked about the 3GPP guidelines, and he basically said, hey, you know, the manufacturers like Ericsson, we kind of had to guess what was going to be happening because we couldn't wait. We had to get it, and basically what he's saying was, you know, we guessed correctly, basically. He talked about the challenges would be aesthetics, obviously with all the small cells going in, and then the lack of tower climbers, but he said it'd be mitigated to a certain extent by, with small cells, a lot of it's going to be done with bucket trucks for small cells. Interesting stuff from Paul. Greg from Extenet, he talked about the 5G growth being exceptional, how the fiber demand is going to be huge, and how they at Extenet have still a 4G backlog. Very, very interesting. Dan from Crown talked about that they're having record activity, and he echoed something that the CEO of Crown Castle, Jay Brown, said, and I reported on from the South Wireless Summit, and that was things have changed, right? The carriers used to ask for 100 nodes. Now they're asking for tens of thousands of nodes in a time when there's resource constrained, right? Not enough people, and then the permitting process and all the approvals are slow. Very, very interesting. So Desmond from Verizon, he talked about they've been planning for 5G since 2015 with what's called the 5G Technical Forum. He said pushing speeds through the pipe with limited spectrum is going to be a challenge, but millimeter wave will be definitely a help. and how 4G LTE started in 2009. It was basically lots of upgrades and an overlay on top of the 3G infrastructure, which we know. He talked about 5G being totally different. We're in agreement. More small cells needed, and he said more partners are needed. He said, Verizon needs partners to help them do all this stuff, which was new, which was, wonderful for the people in that room to hear that stuff. So that was great. So Jen Daniels, I talked about her. So she's the mayor of Gilbert, Arizona. She's had a lot of success in working with our world, right, wireless infrastructure world, and a lot of success in the permitting process. And so this is basically input from the other side, right? We're all about, hey, these municipalities, they are, slowing us down. They're hard to get along with and all that stuff. So this was kind of getting it from the other side, the perspective. So very, very interesting. So she said, yes, we've had our challenges with permitting and zoning and right-of-way access and etc. But she said, here's what you guys need to go. No, the light poles are a city's greatest asset, right? In other words, they know that, and they're kind of like this, and they want to make sure to monetize it. So just be aware of that they know they've got a very strong asset. Here's her advice. Municipalities need to be educated. Don't talk technology to them, talk use cases. In other words, what are the benefits for you? Paint the picture of the future that their city can be if they work along with you and kind of easy to get along with. Next one, she said, use existing infrastructure as much as possible. Here's a big one, build relationships. Find influencers, champions within the municipalities. She really hit that one hard. Try to standardize as much as you can across different cities. So if you come up with processes, paperwork, etc., try to make that work the same in each one of the different cities. And then her last bit of information that she shared was, hey, work with smaller cities. Everybody wants to do New York and LA, but she says, hey, work with the smaller cities for two different reasons. One, they can move faster, they're more nimble, and they're more hungry as well. So that was great, a great job for everyone from that panel, so thank you. Lunch was sponsored by SunWest Engineering. Thank you, SunWest, that was awesome. And then the next panel and the last panel I'm going to talk about, you guys, and then I'm going to be done. The Tower Hour is called. You know this, we've seen this. It's basically the most well-attended and well-enjoyed panel basically everywhere we go. They talk about the good, talk about the bad, etc. I'm going to give that to you. So this was moderated by Clayton Funk from MVP Capital. On the panel was Danny Agresta from APC Towers, always does a good job. Tony Peduto, always fun. Don Van Splunteren from Phoenix Tower, and then Alex Gelman, who's a CEO from Vertical Bridge. So we're talk about the goods, talk about the bads, talk about what they're kind of looking at and watching for. All right, I'm going to start you guys with Alex because he was probably the most vocal, but he also had a lot of the just really good input when I was looking at my notes. That's kind of where I said, wow, I want to make sure I communicate that. So you guys, he started by basically busting his own chops for a quote that he gave ages ago, which was, there's never a better time to sell in the tower industry, and this was way back when, and of course, it just kept getting better and better and better. So they had a little fun at his expense, and he did, and he went with it, and kind of, like I said, just busted his own chops. He had a good time. But more importantly, he told us why this is still happening. Number one, the interest rates remain low while the investor interest remains high. So tower companies are going public. We've got the REITs, right, the real estate investment trusts. You've got institutional investors, pension funds, private investors. They're all coming together and investing. And Alex said, there's a quote, which is, when you fall in love with investing in towers, you stay in love. Interesting. And the last one, he says, the 5G hype is also kind of driving stuff. He talked about the FANGs, right? Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, all want it under one space, under one roof at one time. So macro, small cell, IDaaS, ODaaS, data centers, etc. They want it all done with, kind of one-stop shop. So, advantage big guys is the way that I read that one. Yeah, the downside, he says, the carriers now have to split their CapEx among all this, right? It used to be they have to divide their CapEx amongst macro. Now it's macro and small cell and, IDaaS, ODaaS, fiber, data centers, etc. He also said that this is very interesting. The carriers are not monetizing 4G. And the question is, are they not going to monetize 5G as well? The question is, what is the customer going to pay for, right? You're not going to pay more for 5G because you can't watch a video faster on 5G than you can in 4G. So what's the consumer going to pay for? That's yet to be seen. And Alex was saying, me, I'm not paying a penny more. So anyways, that was interesting. He talked about the his concern about the public pushing back on RF health issues, not in my backyard type of stuff. He said basically it's, you know, it's a hot button and then it kind of went away and we hadn't had to defend ourselves lately, and now we're going to be needing to do that. The last thing he said is the carriers have to he said the carriers, what have they changed? They've been trying to change the model for the past 5 years, and what have they changed? I think the answer is not much, I think, was his point. So great job by Alex. Tony talked about the Sprint and T-Mobile merger and basically said the floodgates are going to open up when the decision is made, right? Either way it goes, they're waiting. And so the floodgates will open once a decision is made. He talked about maybe the negative effects of different tower companies who are building a new tower, you know, next door to an existing tower. I think we know that model and who we're speaking of. And then he just said, you know, hey, I wish that the relationship between the tower companies and the carriers was a little bit better and a little less of this. Very, very interesting from Tony. Danny talked about how the stocks are all-time high and how his company's been successful for many years without all 4 wireless carriers spending at one time, back like when it was in 2013. A lot of stuff going on in his world, a lot of construction, a lot of co-location, etc. Don talked about the carriers continuing to squeeze margin, and he was basically saying, hey, we're going to have to change the model as things go. So you guys, that was a great, great event. Well attended. Great job done by everybody. Way to go, Clayton, for herding the cats, as I call it. You guys, that was it. Dinner that night was sponsored by Caldwell Compliance. They put on a great party. It was a great meeting, so a big congratulations to all the wireless associations in the West region. Big thank you to Patty Ringo from Wireless West and Carrie Willis from the E-Factor for putting that on, doing such a great job. Next for me is going to be ConnectX in May, my Super Bowl as we call it, May in Orlando. Of course, I'll come back and give you the download. Once again, you guys, I do this as my way of giving back to the industry. If you weren't able to make it, I want to make you feel like you got all the media information and make you feel like you were there. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.